So as we are beginning to emerge from this pandemic experience over the last year and a half, our lives, our community, our nation, and certainly our world is forever changed. There's no going back, only forward. And the question about how it is that we move forward is something that we're stepping into, as you've heard this morning, as you've read in the newsletter and in the e-news that you've gotten. And each of us are called to ask that, not only about our own lives, but certainly about how we step into this new way of being in the world that we live in. And certainly, we want to focus this next month or two or three on how we move forward as Center of Unity. You know, anytime we experience a major change in our lives, a shift, an evolutionary spinning of the ways in which we grow, our success in understanding and navigating these changes require a proactive approach rather than being reactive to what's happening. This was true, I believe, of the early Christian communities as they began forming. Half of the books in the New Testament are really dedicated to trying to navigate this new burgeoning understanding of what we now know today as Christianity. And I believe that they were our first model of a mission-centric group of communities. Something that this community, and indeed many communities, are seeking to shift into, to be more in that space of having what emerges come from the bottom up rather the top down. The burgeoning groups that were happening back in those days met in people's homes, and everyone, often from the wealthy owner to those who were attracted to and wanted to be a part of that message, were welcomed into that community. And they all played their parts according to their gifts in fulfilling the mission. And their mission was simple: to spread the good news of salvation. Some were their leaders, going out and speaking to people, had that gift of being able to share this message with people. Others contributed financially as they continued to work the jobs that were their livelihoods and professions. Others lived there and provided the physical support, whether it was cooking or cultivating the crops or caring for the children. Everyone had a role to play in the community, all while seeking to live as a community with those core Christ principles of love and compassion and kindness and forgiveness and right judgment. Perhaps one of their early mission statements might have been, free of judgment, full of love. And yet, as the years unfolded, and by the time we got to about 325 AD, and Christianity was deemed the path for the masses by the Roman Emperor Constantine, the church evolved once again, and it became more of a top-down organization, with the top tier determining what the good of the people were about, and the people were just expected to support it with their tithes and perhaps step in and support some little small part of that mission. Over the long history of Christianity, the tension between minister-centric, or in those days it would have been priest-centric or pope-centric, and mission-centric has played out time and time again. Today, under the major 6 branches of Christianity, there are thousands of split-off branches, as each branch tried to break away from others telling them what to do and believe that they had another good idea. And certainly New Thought and Unity specifically is a sub-branch of all of that. Interestingly enough, the Unity movement formed in a similar way to early Christianity. It started out in people's homes. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who are the co-founders of Unity, did not really have designs on creating a denomination or even having church buildings. They encouraged people to gather wherever they were, like-minded people, to discuss and explore and grow through these early teachings. And that early mission of Unity, and I think one that still lives today, was to find practical ways to live the teachings of the Master Jesus in order for us to be able to awaken to our own indwelling Christ nature. And as all things happened, as the movement grew, so did the formation of churches and organizations to support them. And unlike other religious organizations, it remained true to its grassroots to a certain extent because we have no mother church. Every Unity church is autonomous, is free to choose their own minister, is free to choose their own mission, is free to choose how it is that they are showing up in our world. And yet, even with this freedom under there, the formation and greater form in the Unity movement started to take place, as it often does. Unity evolved and modeled the same kind of church environments, in large part, that they were seeing out in the other branches of Christianity, and it became a minister-centric model, where the minister is the one primarily called to guide and direct the flock. And that brings us to the opportunities and the challenges that we face today. Religious organizations have been on the decline for the past 50 to 60 years. In the 1940s, it was estimated that 73% of Americans were affiliated with a religious organization. And according to the research by the Barna Group, and this comes from 2016, so I think the decline has even gone further, 66% of traditionalists, those of you born from I don't even remember exactly, the older people in this group, you know who you are, born before 1945, are members of a church compared to 58% of baby boomers and 50% of the Gen X, 36% of millennials. So we can see the trend as new generations come into being. And in 2020, now this might have been somewhat pandemic related, the overall percentage of people across the board dropped below 50% who consider themselves connected to or a part of a religious organization. In contrast, there is a growing demographic of people who identify themselves as spiritual, not religious. You've probably heard that term out there, who desire a real transcendent experience of God, and oftentimes will seek it out in yoga or meditation or silence or nature, as John Muir liked to go out to find his experience of God. And those who have been studying the trends within Unity, primarily and most notably the Dr. Reverends Gary and Jane Simmons, believe that Unity is uniquely poised to be a great opportunity to attract those people into our midst, to begin to shift and to allow those people to come in and grow, because in so many ways we align with this growing group, and it requires us to really take a look at the current model that we have, the current way that we operate, in order to create a space to welcome those individuals into our community. Mission-centric rather than minister-centric has become the new buzzword. You've heard it here. I'm sure that you've perhaps even said it. And in general, we think, yeah, that's what I want. But what is it? What is exactly? And we're just really beginning to experiment with what that looks like as a community. I think, first, a mission-centric community, it is about seeking and supporting those people, especially those millennials and Gen Xers who are looking to have a transcendent and transformative experience, that becomes the model, it's not just about hearing about things, but it's about having that experience. And honestly, Sunday services don't always allow that to happen. We know that small groups, those places where you can come together with others and you can explore and you can connect and you can expand your understanding and awareness and experience of God, just like those early Christians' experience, are one of the keys to that. So we will continue to focus on the kinds of small groups that we offer here. You know, as I was sitting and envisioning what this might look like here, especially trying to think of what really is calling being asked for by the millennials and Gen Xers, it might be something like Spiritual Tuesdays and Tacos, where it's a very informal, interactive discussion. Perhaps there's some music in it, but it's really not so much the Sunday service model, but it is a place where we can really go deep into understanding how we can live these principles. I would imagine, would address things like, how do we manage the stress that's in our lives? That, especially for that range of people, that's what they're working with right now. How do I, bring this idea and this practice of meditation into my daily life when there's so many demands going on in my world? I also, based on this email that Rick Weaver had sent to me about what another more traditional group is doing, is to have a group of those millennials or Gen Xers who really want to go deep, and it would be kind of modeled like after a disciples program, and it would be a year-long commitment, and in that commitment you would go through a process where it would touch every aspect of your life in learning how to grow into a deeper and more committed relationship with your own indwelling wisdom and light. And in return, then those who were participating would go out and serve the world, whether it's within this community or out in the greater world. So there's unlimited possibilities of how that might look. The second thing for mission-centric ministries to be successful, and I think that these next two are probably the most critical ones, are systems that are in place that are created that cultivate those who come into our midst from being attenders, or you can think of them as the receivers, to the owners or the partners who are part of the givers in the community. And thirdly, that we begin to foster and put systems into place and allow people to grow into greater emotional and spiritual maturity. It's a tough thing to have a diverse group of people come together and there not be changes or challenges and conflicts. We're just a big old group of people. I know sometimes people get disillusioned that it's not just always free of judgment and full of love. And that's a beautiful vision to hold. But the reality is, we're a big old group of people in varying places of our own spiritual unfolding, and we will disagree. So part of this journey is to give us the skill sets to be able to navigate those challenges and those conflicts that show up. Nonviolent communication was certainly a start in that. The Eye of the Storm series, which I'm going to start next Sunday, is another good primer for getting us into that place to expand our perspectives, to begin to see things and understand things from a different point of view. And then the fourth part of this is that the minister shifts from being the one who determines what's best for the community to being sort of a cheerleader and a supporter for where the community wants to go. I kind of like to think of it as a spiritual coach. you know? So the minister's not doing the decision making, but the minister is there to support the community in figuring out how to bring that into being. You know, as we reemerge from what has been, it is our opportunity to reimagine how we are going to continue to grow and evolve as a community. And I share this with you so that we can begin to understand the different ways in which we will show up and support this unfoldment and the mission that becomes central. To understand and to vision how it is that we grow that into something more than just our minds and hearts, but express it out into our world. And I also recognize that we have a good population of those traditionalists in our community and some of the older millennials, or baby boomers, I should say. So that's what I am. I'm an older baby boomer. And you may feel, well, you know, things are working pretty good. Why change? And I want you to know this. It's not either or. It's both and. We want to be here so that we find the right places and groups and support systems for all people. And we know that we've got to continue to welcome into our midst, right where they are, this younger generation in order for the longevity of this community to be secured. So we want to hear from everyone who has a stake in this community. I would love to hear from people who perhaps are just joining us, what it is that they're seeking, what called them here today, what are they hoping to experience. I'd love to invite in the people who perhaps have been active here in the past but are no longer active here. So if you know some of those people, please encourage them to participate in these opportunities so that we can hear from them perhaps what no longer served them that caused them to step away. We can't be everything to everyone, but we want to see how it is and what it is that the majority of the people in our world right now want and need out of a spiritual community. And we're especially interested, and I'm looking at my daughter down here, in discovering how we can inspire spiritual growth with those millennials and Gen Xers. What is it that would really serve and support you? So, as Kenny mentioned, we're going to be having a gathering here in person on July the 24th. We're going to be doing it via Zoom on August the 1st. And then at some point, if you can't make either of those, we will be sending out a survey with the same kinds of questions to those who perhaps don't even live in this area anymore but have some input because they can now still be a part of us through this beautiful technology that we've gotten to develop over this past year. Everyone and every community or organization needs a vision or they will perish. And so this is our opportunity, and I want us to start right now to see what it is that's arising up within us, what that vision might look like. You don't have to have all the form around it, but just see what pictures, what emotions, what ideas, what thoughts begin to arise as we move into a time of meditation. Bob, you want to come and join me? So I just invite you to take a moment and just get comfortable right where you are and become aware of that breath, that commonality between all of life as it moves in and out of your body. And as you breathe, just let go of all of that activity that has brought you into this moment so that you can, in these next few breaths, just simply be still and be open to the guidance of that indwelling light. See if you can place your attention down in your heart space, almost as if you're breathing in and out of your heart. Feel a sense of relaxation, a coherence in the rhythm of that heartbeat. that allows the thoughts racing in your mind begin to slow. And into this heart space, I invite you to bring to mind someone or something that you deeply love. It could be a person, could be a beloved pet. Doesn't even matter if they're still on this planet Earth, but something that really expands your heart with that unconditional love that sings within you to know how blessed you've been to have that connection. Whenever and whatever we create, we want to create out of that energy of love. And so as you spend just a few moments and we move for a time of quiet, ask that heart space of love to bring to mind, whether it's something that you see or hear or an idea, how it is that you would love to see Center of Unity continue to support, continue to grow your spiritual life. Breathe into that. And if you did receive an idea or a thought or a vision in this moment, you might want to jot it down this day so that you can bring it to the greater group. And if you're still in that question, just continue to be open as these next few weeks unfold, to continue to ask the question from that place of love and possibility, and see what arises. For as we're reminded by the Master Teacher, all you have to do is ask in order to receive. And it is with that energy of gratitude to know that all things are unfolding in perfect and divine ways, that we begin to bring our attention back to this time and space, aware once again of the body and the breath moving in and through it, bringing that sense of love and possibility back into this day to enliven us as we go and do what's ours to do. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. You know, the psalmist had a vision, which is now thousands of years ago, when they wrote, "How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity." It's a pretty lofty vision. It's one, I think, that we hold and are still working towards how it is that we can make that happen. And I've got a hint for you. I am the one. You are the one. We are the ones. Imagine that. You know, we do live in an abundant universe, and that abundance blesses our lives in so many ways and supports us in doing what we're called to do with ease and with grace. The spiritual law of giving and receiving reminds us that as we give, so too we receive. And so, however it is that you choose to give to this community, I pray that you will give from that energy of love, from that energy of abundance, from that energy of knowing that as this goes out and circulates in the world, that you are making a positive difference. As we prepare to share these gifts and offerings with Center of Unity, bring that energy of love and gratitude into your heart space. Feel it flowing through you so that as you give this gift, it also goes and flows with that same energy. And to support those who watch us remotely in this flow of giving and receiving, you can go to centerofunity.org/give and give there if you choose to electronically. And then if you scroll down the page, there's also random affirmations there for you. You just pick the picture you like and you click on it, and you'll receive an affirmation to support and bless you this week. So join with me as we bless these gifts and the way that they bless this ministry together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am.
Yay! So Daniel was born with a genetic blood disorder called beta thalassemia major. All of their organs are working in overdrive because they don't have the red cells they need to keep their body alive. The quality of life and their health suffers greatly. For the first 4 years of Daniel's life, he lived in an orphanage in China, and they really did the best that they could, but they were limited by the medical facilities as well as the local blood supply. We knew that it was imperative to get him to the United States as soon as possible. Daniel is transfused every 21 days. A couple of days before his scheduled transfusion, we go and have labs drawn, and that sample of his blood is sent off to Carter Blood Care, where they make sure that it's free of antibodies and that they can find a perfect match of blood. Even though the demand for blood stays stable, the supply of blood does not always stay stable. So we decided to get involved with our family in hosting blood drives. We are donors ourselves now on a regular basis. If you've never given blood before, I just really encourage you to go out and give. Donating blood is really the only thing that you can do that costs you nothing, and it literally can save somebody's life. When you go out to donate, you could be donating to your neighbor or your friend or the teller at your bank without ever knowing. Every unit of blood that you give is a story that is able to be told because of you. You've given life, you've given a gift not only to the recipient, but to every single person that knows and loves that recipient. And if I can meet the donors that have given to Daniel, I would just love to give them a big hug and say, just thank you from our entire family for making these donations so that Daniel can live. I'm so proud to be called your neighbor, and just so proud to live here in North Texas, where we do have donors like you. Every single unit of blood that we get for Daniel is just a step towards him living a long and healthy life. It's giving him a future. He wouldn't be here if it weren't for you.
Please welcome John Wright with Carter Blood Care. He has just a few words to say to us this morning.
Thank you very much. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. It goes without saying, she's a friend, she's a client, and she's a donor. You know, it is every day that we get up, that we go about our life, but we don't realize the people that need blood transfusions. He looks so healthy, but he gets so sick every 20 days. But there are a lot of little Daniels all over the Metroplex. We're behind. We need your help. However, we have a goal for you for next Sunday. It's 12. You've got 8 donors so far. Yay. But we have room for 18, so I don't want to not say something about that. If you cannot donate, I understand. You can't do it. But you can bring someone that can, because that will really help. We're in a critical stage. It doesn't go any higher. We're in critical stage. So whatever you could do, please come and donate or bring someone with you, and let's have this be a roaring success. Thank you.
And so as we go into this day, into this week, imagining what can be, we go, knowing our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Have a beautiful week, everyone.